We'll call the Temple City regular meeting to order, April 21st, 2020 at 7:30. Before we get started, I would like to remind those who are calling in that your microphone will be unmuted during public comment and when public comment is open during an agendized discussion. You can also email your request to speak to cityclerk@templecity.us. Do that right now and indicate on the subject line the item you wish to. Okay. For in tonight, it's with a sad heart that I announced that Councilmember Fish has tendered her resignation from the City Council. I know that Nan has served our community for years and in so many ways, including her service on this council the past 5 years, culminating last year her appointment as mayor. I know that colleagues will join me in wishing her a bright future as she enters a new chapter in her life. We wish her peace and happiness and look forward, of course, to seeing her and thanking her personally in the near future. So Nan, our best to you, and I'm sure as we get into our meeting, other members will have something to say. So my best to you. Okay, with that, I'm going to call roll call. Or Madam Clerk, would you please call roll call?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Mann?
Here.
Councilmember Sternquist?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Yu?
Vince?
Mayor Pro Tem Yu?
Here.
Thank
Mayor
you.
Chavez?
Here. Okay, I will begin with the invocation. If you'll all just bow your heads and join with me in prayer. Heavenly Father, in our hearts we plan our course, but we pray that you establish our steps. I pray that we seek you for advice. Let us not make decisions based upon what we know, but let us act based upon your wisdom. Please guide us, Lord. We place this meeting in your hands. We place our hearts and our minds in your hands so that you may direct us. Father, please continue to watch over our first responders, our nurses, our doctors, and keep them safe. Please keep our city staff, families in your prayers. Keep us safe and healthy as we fight through these difficult times. In your name, pray. Amen.
Amen.
And all stand and join the allegiance. Again, pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty.
Thank you. Okay. We now move into item number 4, our format. First presentation will be from the Temple City Chamber of Commerce. Peter Choi will provide us with this quarterly update, and I believe we have line.
Yes, Mayor Chavez, City Council, this is Peter Choi, President and CEO of the Temple City Chamber of Commerce. Mayor, first check to make sure I'm being heard.
Yes, we can hear you.
Great, thank you, Mayor. It's my intention to keep this report as brief as possible so as not to prolong this meeting, its attendance, but there is a lot to cover, so here we go. To say that the first 3 months of this year are unlike any we have ever seen or experienced is a massive understatement. That said, the Chamber has been out front on this issue of the current COVID-19 pandemic health crisis and have made it our mission to be a source of solid facts and breaking information. Many in attendance may recall that during the Chamber's last quarterly report presentation at the February 4th City Council meeting, we highlighted that there was a coronavirus hitting our city and recommended that community members wash their hands, sing happy birthday twice. And we also ended with a hopeful warning that the upstanding Asian American members of our community not be scapegoated or disrespected, as the virus did not respect race, age, class, or sex. The Chamber has always recognized our position of leadership in the business community and that our actions are often emulated by our members. We get asked who provides your internet service, which water company do you use, Arrowhead or Sparklet, and they often follow suit. Knowing this, we set out to lead by example and enact measures to protect our staff and ensure the Chamber would be able to continue operations and support the business community if things got worse, which they did. I attended the city's March 13th Special Emergency City Council meeting and made public comment to update our actions and express support for the city's actions. That Friday, March 13th, was our final day the Chamber office was open. Effective Monday, the next Monday, the Chamber of Commerce closed our office and staff commenced working from home due to COVID-19. The staff, of course, is the two part-time staff that constitute the Chamber staff, and that's myself and Fawn. Since that time, the Chamber has continued to assist our members, publish the monthly Temple City Life, and support the business community, even during this very difficult health crisis. During the early days of the pandemic, the Chamber saw that the biggest issue was sorting through all the information versus rampant misinformation and rumors and opinions that were misleading. As I noted earlier, we set out to be a source of solid facts and breaking information. We normally send out an e-blast once, maybe twice a month, and we have a high open rate. But we have been sending out e-blasts almost every day due to the continual release of new information, whether state guidelines or LA County health directives or stimulus programs to support small business members, whether it was a letter from the mayor regarding COVID-19 in our city, or webinars and forums presented by our elected officials like Representative Judy Chu, Supervisor Catherine Barger, and others. We will continue to do so. I'm proud that we have been successful in getting information out to the community regularly and quickly. We know this from the response thanking us for the quick release of helpful information, and most importantly of all, facts. Thank you, Mayor Chavez, for your kind email communication regarding our efforts. These efforts include creating a quick link in our e-blast so folks can go to the city's website page or LA County or the Small Business Administration, etc., with a simple click. Also updating a list of local restaurants offering takeout delivery. And again, breaking news on new programs, loans, and grants to support small businesses and others. Last week, I hosted a Zoom conference of my fellow Chamber leaders from Pasadena, South Pass, Rosemead, Irwindale, Arcadia, etc., to learn how each chamber was weathering the pandemic. We are, after all, nonprofits with anticipated revenue loss in the months to come, and also to learn about business conditions in the 626 and the San Gabriel Valley. Regarding the programs you may have heard of, Paycheck Protection Program, the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, the question was asked if any of the chambers knew of any of their members who had yet successfully received the check, and the answer was no, not a single one. And that's something we're just continually working with. They've run out of money. They just passed a new federal stimulus today, so we shall see. And we'll continue alerting our members and the entire business community and others about these programs the minute that we get word about them. When it comes to our local small businesses, the question I am most asked is, what's the word on the street? How are Temple City businesses doing? I first respond that every business is different and navigating their own path through this shutdown. A restaurant trying to survive by offering takeout delivery service is different than a gym like Planet Fitness. One member, dentist Dr. Jack Von Bulow, writes in the upcoming May issue of Temple City Life that, quote, the last time we provided active dental care was Thursday, March 12th. Once we knew the COVID-19 coronavirus was airborne and transmissible from asymptomatic infected carriers, we chose to temporarily step back. We did not hesitate. The thought of passing the infection without testing or the proper protective equipment or environment was just not an option. So what they are doing is, he says, with us, we're referring patients who need emergency oral care to Pacific Oral Surgery in Glendale because they are top-of-the-line specialists, but most importantly, because they meet the precautionary standards of care. So that's a local dental clinic. We have many of those. Like I said, every business is navigating the quarantine the best they can. But one thing every business is grappling with, regardless of how they're doing, what they're grappling with is the uncertainty and the unknown. How long will this last? When will we get back to business? The answer is, of course, that we do not know. But for small business owners, the question is, do I try to stay open and bleed money until I can make money again? Or do I close my business and walk away? Not knowing if one can reopen on May 15th or September or sometime in 2021 makes it difficult. It's like the old Kenny Rogers lyric, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. But when one does not know what the next day's news will bring in terms of federal, state, or county directives, it is impossible to make an educated decision. And then until we see where the pandemic goes and flows, that's when people can start deciding what to do. That is the problem. This is what's happening in our business community at all levels. So we will continue to support the community with the best resource during these uncertain times, which is information and news that you can use. As for the chamber stability itself, during the Zoom conference, my chamber leaders were open and frank about the loss of revenue from memberships, events, and advertising. Some expressed concerns about staying afloat through the summer. Fortunately, the Temple City Chamber applied for and was approved for a grant from the Clean Power Alliance to promote their message and information to the community. The grant maximum was $20,000, but the amount would be determined by the ideas in the proposal. Some organizations might receive $5,000 or $10,000 or $12,000. Our application and proposals were received well by CPA, and we were awarded the full $20,000, which will go a huge way to balancing our budget against the anticipated loss of revenue and income from canceled advertising and canceled memberships. While the monies cannot go to our operational overhead, it will be very helpful as we navigate our way through this shutdown, especially since chamber nonprofits are not eligible for government programs like the Paycheck Protection Plan. And as I mentioned to City Manager Cook yesterday during our private Zoom conference, we look forward to working with city staff to help promote the Clean Power Alliance's rates, service, and financial assistance programs, especially these financial assistance programs available to their customers, and to disseminate digital materials in English, Spanish, and Chinese. We're especially proud of our grant acceptance because we actually rewrote it to address the current situation. Originally, the proposal included standbys like a 10 by 10 easy up tent at community fairs or events in the park, networking mixers and seminars. But COVID-19 raised a unique problem. How do you reach out to the community when there are no community gatherings or opportunities? I think we came up with some novel ideas that were received well by CPA, and we look forward to implementing them. If imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, then we hope other orgs and departments will emulate any of that work. We begin our engagement with CPA with training next month in May. Before I finish, I would like to highlight one of our members who has adapted to the pandemic crisis in a way that should make us all proud. Attendees at our last year's gala at the Dive restaurant may remember winning bags of makeup and cosmetics from LA Splash Cosmetics, who operate a manufacturing facility here in the city. Back in January, February, because they were tracking what was happening, in China, as the chamber was as well, LA Splash anticipated what was coming, and they resolved to shift from cosmetics to manufacturing hand sanitizer gel. Thank you to City Manager Cook and Interim Community Development Director Scott Reimers for their assistance and help, and it appears LA Splash will start manufacturing much needed hand sanitizer gels this week. We are very proud to help this effort. I could highlight other businesses like Kang Ho Dong Baekjong Restaurant donating 2,000 delicious Korean barbecue dinners to first responders, or the Chamber's own board member, Gerard Atienza, working with the Temple City Homeless Coalition to deliver food supplies to needy families. Working with my friend Ray Jan, Executive Director of the Rosemead Chamber, we coordinated donations and delivery of breads and foodstuffs to Gerard and the First United Methodist Church to support their efforts. But I want to keep this short, so I will simply say that there are many such angels rising during this time, and the Chamber is here to support them. If there are any out there that are looking for assistance, please contact us. We would love to help with any effort of any kind. Doesn't have to be business related during this very difficult time. Finally, I will end with this note. This is a historic pandemic health crisis like we have never seen before in modern times. And the Chamber understands the stress worry, and fear infecting not just the business community, but everyone in our city. It is the strong belief of the Chamber that the best way to get through this quarantine is to take action based on facts and science. It is unclear how we may return to anything remotely resembling normal without an increase in testing and a sustained downward trend in confirmed cases. There is both so much we do not know and so much we are learning each day. The Chamber is here to support and assist, and we are committed to continuing our work and help us get back to whatever the new normal will be. Thank you, Mayor Chavez.
Thank you, Peter. Are there any questions from council? Hearing none. Peter, I just want to again thank you for the information to your class. I read them every day, and there's some good information in there. I hope that we continue. I know that we will continue to work with you through the city and make sure that both our residents and businesses have the most up-to-date information, because obviously, as you said earlier, that's what helps the most. Also, it's nice to hear, one second, it's nice to hear locals who are stepping up as well. Peter, I would ask that perhaps, if you don't mind, maybe providing me with some contact information for those who are doing those type of things. And I've been reaching out to those people in our community, either a call or an email or a personal card to them from the mayor, thanking them for their efforts. So that would be great if you could share that information with Brian or with me. I'd appreciate it. And
absolutely.
Thank you. Cindy, I think, is that Cindy? Did you have a question?
Yeah. No, not a question. I just wanted to say that right before the meeting, I saw this post from Victoria Martinez and El Monte, and I sent it to Brian. I don't know if he got it, but basically they were having a city council meeting this evening, and her statement says, if you are a small business owner in El Monte or have friends who are, tune in to the council meeting tonight. We are working on small business grants funded through federal dollars. While there are qualifications that must be met, we hope to help as many businesses as possible. The city of El Monte is working hard to support our local economy. So I'm wondering, Brian and Peter, if you have any insight as to what grants that are federal grants that the city would be partnering to give to small business.
Councilmember Sternquist, I'll be able to discuss some of that during my city manager's report in a little bit, if that's okay. Okay, thank you.
And Councilmember Sternquist, it's Peter here. Sorry, there's a little feedback here. Peter here. Thank you for that. What I will do is I will go review the El Monte City Council and find out what programs they were talking about, and then see how we can replicate it or follow up on that here. The thing, is that I must say, with all these new programs and all this information, so much of our time at the chamber is spent reading up on it so we can share it knowledgeably. But thank you for that tip, because I will check that out and see. We're always interested to hear from anyone and everyone about what's happening out there and whether we can use it to support our business community here in Temple City.
Sure. Thank you, Peter.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then we will move on to our next item on ceremonial matters. We have a couple of proclamations. Usually we do these live and have people, of course, join us in chambers. Tonight we're going to be doing it a little different, but we still want to give recognition. One of those, of course, is to our Arbor Day. I know many of you, and remember in the past, we've enjoyed Arbor Day. Usually have a ceremony in the park and plant some trees, have the students there and participating. It's a really great event. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that this year, but we do have an Arbor Day proclamation that I would like to read to everyone who is listening. Whereas in 1872, back in 1872, seems like it's obvious a long time ago, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas our renewable, giving us paper, wood for our home, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city, property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And I'll just add my own words, now more than ever, of course. Now, therefore, I, Tom Chavez, Mayor of the City of Temple City, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 24th, 2020, as Arbor Day in the City of Temple City. And I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. And I think it goes without saying that, getting out there and still enjoying our backyards and doing what we can for the environment obviously is very important. So congratulations. And again, we will celebrate that on April 24th. We have let me get to that. We have one more proclamation. I can pull that up, of course. Here we go. We also are celebrating our Donate a Life through the Department of Motor Vehicle Donate Life California month, April 2020. Whereas organ and tissue and blood donations are life-giving acts recognized worldwide as expressions of compassion to those in need. And whereas more than 112,000 individuals nationwide and more than 21,000 in California are currently on the national organ transplant wait list, and on average 17 people die each day while waiting due to the shortage of donated organs. Whereas the need for donated organs is especially urgent in Hispanic and African American communities, and whereas more than 600,000 units of blood per year are needed to meet the need in California. Whereas at any given time, 18,000 patients are in need of volunteer marrow donors. And whereas a single individual's donation of the heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, pancreas, and small intestine can save up to 8 lives, donation of tissue can save and heal the lives of up to 75 others, and a single blood donation can help 3 people in need. Whereas millions of lives each year are saved and healed by donors of organs, tissues, marrow, and blood. And whereas the spirit of giving and decision to donate are not restricted by age or medical condition. And whereas over 16 million Californians have signed up with the state-authorized Donate Life California registry to ensure their wishes to be organ, eye, and tissue donors are honored. Whereas California residents can sign up with the Donate Life California registry when applying for or renewing their driver's licenses or ID cards at the California Department of Motor Vehicles. Whereas California residents interested in saving a life through living kidney donation are encouraged to visit www.livingdonationcalifornia.org for more information. Now, therefore, I, Tom Chavez, as mayor, and on behalf of the City Council of Temple City, do hereby proclaim April 2020 as the DMV Donate Life California month in the City of Temple City. And in doing so, we encourage all citizens to check yes when applying for renewing their driver's license or ID card, or by signing up at www.donatelifecalifornia.org or www.vid@california.org. Again, with this, it's going around, sometimes we forget that there are other issues, other health issues that people have to deal with on a daily basis, and we cannot forget that as well. So obviously very appropriate for this month. So thank you for those, and we will now all move on to item number 6, public comments for items not listed on the agenda. The City Council will now hear public comments regarding items not listed on the agenda. I would first like to ask the City Clerk if there are any email requests to speak.
Yes, Mayor. I have one email for public comment by Jerry Jambazian, and with your approval, I will go ahead and read it now.
Please,
Greetings, City Council. Thank you. Have there been any projections as to how this pandemic will affect city services and the budget? I assume adjustment will need to be made, especially in regards to sales tax revenues, while reserves be needed to fund needed services. There are actually 6 points or 5 points. So second one, is now the best time to perform street repairs and resurfacing due to decreased traffic? Point number 3, while the pandemic delayed the library renovation or the proposed new park? And number 4, are there major capital improvement projects that may have to be put on hold? And number 5, are concerts in the park or any other family event on hold during the summer? End of public comment. And I'm going to unmute Mr. Jambazian's microphone in case he wished to speak.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cook, were you going to respond to any of these questions now, or did you want to touch on that during your comments?
That's your call, Mayor. I can comment very briefly on them now, and I can reiterate some of them during my report as well.
Well, if you don't mind, if I think just so we stay consistent, why don't you go ahead and maybe briefly comment on some of those things that you can comment on now?
I think Mr. Jambazian has the opportunity to speak if he'd like.
Jerry, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I thought I had something in there if any services were going to be cut or shortened, or how do I want to say it? That type of thing.
You're talking about city services?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Cook, you want to respond?
Sure, I'd be happy to, Mayor. For Mr. Jambazian's questions, his first question related to the projections of revenue reductions and city services. At this time, and what the council has done for the last several meetings, has essentially funded services at their existing levels. We have budgeted funds for all existing services. The only service, obviously, due to the health order that has been restricted significantly, has been our park services, with classes closed and canceled, trips canceled, those types of things. So in terms of any services that have been reduced, those that have been reduced by order of the health department have been reduced or eliminated temporarily. And with that being said, we are still taking calls for service. We are still we're still doing pothole repairs. We are doing them on a modified basis to make sure that we are consistent with the health order, to ensure that our employees are consistent in their practices of social distancing and and the manner in which they interact with the public and each other as they perform their duties in the field. With sales tax, it will inevitably go down. And I'll touch upon this a little bit more in the city manager's report. We are a property tax based city, so in a much more gradual manner. But we will see a level of a downturn that will probably exceed what happened during the 2008 Great Recession. Those numbers are starting to come in. We are getting a sense of where they're going because of two things: because of the prudent reserves that the city council has put aside over the years from a cash flow position standpoint, meaning paying our bills on a day-to-day basis, paying our vendors, paying our contractors, paying our employees. We are in fine shape right now and will be for the foreseeable future. So we also are not projecting the need to use reserve at this time through the end of this fiscal year. We are in the development process of our budget for 2020-21. We are going through that, understanding and trying to figure out what are some reasonable assumptions and projections. But as of today, it is not anticipated that we will have to use reserves to continue to provide services. His second question, is this the best time to perform street repairs and resurfacing? We think so. In fact, notices should be going out to businesses along Las Tunas between Muscatel and Sultana for the project that you approved to do some night work, which we adjusted in order to lessen the impact to the community, to do a 4-inch grind and overlay of Las Tunas from Sultana to Muscatel. Noticing will be going out on that soon, and communication will be heading out. It should be about, the major impact of that should be about 4 or 5 days of night work, depending on the conditions in the field. Will the pandemic delay the library renovation? No, there was a small delay for some personnel issues that were on site, but they are still working and they are trying their best to meet their goals and their schedule to be open. Will this delay the proposed park? No, it should not either. We are actually having a standing committee this Friday with Mayor Pro Tem Yu and Councilmember Mann to discuss the schedule and how things are going on that front as well, then return to the council to actually authorize for bid. Are there any major capital projects that may be placed on hold? Not at this time, but as we go through the 2020-2021 budget, we will be very careful as to what we would propose as staff for the council to consider in terms of capital projects that would take a general fund contribution, and also ensuring that our special funds that are specifically related to certain types of projects and operations, are also in a fiscally responsible, in a fiscally solvent position. Gas tax is going down significantly, which impacts things like Proposition A funds, Proposition C funds as well. So that's going to be challenging. Our concerts in the park and other family events being placed on hold. We are going to have to evaluate that. We'll be coming back to the council and evaluating that. That will be very dependent upon the continued orders by the LA County Health Department as terms of mass gatherings, what they look like. The community will be talking with the council soon, and then communicating that out to the Temple City residents and community about what programs we can and we cannot do going forward. I think that's all 5 of them, sir.
All right. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. Okay. We will now move on to any of those who are yes.
I'm sorry. We've unmuted all the callers' microphones in case there are any callers that wish to make a comment that did not email their request. So if you could open the public comment to the callers.
I was just about to do that. For those who call in, we now will unmute your microphone to avoid callers from speaking over each other. Please state your name so you can be added to the public comment list. The city clerk will call upon your turn to comment. Please be reminded that you have up to 3 minutes to speak. So do we have anyone on the line who wishes to speak? I heard a dog. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll be responding to that one. Okay, hearing no one, I will then close public comment, so if that's okay with you. Peggy?
Yes, we're now muting all the callers' microphones. Yes, thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, so public comments is now closed. We will now move on to our consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be approved in a single motion as recommended, unless removed for further discussion. Brian, I think you had a matter that you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Chavez. Staff would like to pull item C, the approval of the permits to sell fireworks for the 2020 season for a few caveats and further deliberation with the council.
Okay. Any other matter council would like to pull at this time? Hearing none, can we have a motion to approve all items other than
Mr. Mayor, I'll move to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item C, which has been pulled.
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay. Why don't we go ahead and take a call for that right now? Get that out of the way. Madam Clerk, if you take a roll call for those items.
Thank you. Councilmember Mann,
Yes.
Councilmember Sternquist, Councilmember Sternquist,
She's still with us?
Yes.
Councilmember Sternquist, your vote.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, you,
Yes.
Mayor Chavez.
Yes. Okay, now we will now move on to the item that's been pulled. That is item C, approval of permits to sell fireworks for the 2020 season. Brian, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Chavez and members of the council. The reason I pull this is usually a very routine item, but these are not routine times. Per the municipal code requires that we bring this item before you before May 1st. But with the COVID-19 pandemic and the stay-at-home orders and the uncertainty of what 4th of July and the future will look like, if the council were to consider this tonight, we would recommend that we put a caveat motion, an additional motion together to state that we would come back to the council on or before June 1st with any additional information conditioned upon the LA County Public Health official, Dr. Ferrer's, or the LA County Health Department's conditions related to gatherings, related to retail establishments, and or the use of fireworks going forward. And if Mr. Murphy has anything else I missed.
No, your city manager said it well. By code, we need to approve this for the 1st of May, but it makes sense to approve it contingent on the public health official allowing this activity this summer. And then we'd like direction to bring it back to you for either ratification, which would be simple consent calendar item, or for rescinding this approval if it looks like as of the first meeting in June that this isn't going to be able to go forward, and so we'll wind up without any fireworks sales at all this summer. That's the whole reason that it was pulled, just so that we could kind of tweak the motion and give some leeway to rethink this in June if health circumstances require.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Are there any questions or comments by council members? Hearing none. Cindy, did you have a question?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion based on the statement you made.
Mayor Chavez, I'd like to make a motion to approve consent calendar item 7C with the changes as described by City Manager Brian Cook.
Okay, thank you. Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vince. Okay, we have a first and a second. Madam, get a roll call, please.
Councilmember Mann,
Yes.
Councilmember Sternquist,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, you,
Yes.
Mayor Chavez.
Yes. Okay, thank you. That has been unanimously approved. Item C on the consent calendar. So now we will move on to item 8, public hearing. We have none. Number 9, unfinished business. We have none. And now we will move on to item 10, new business. First item is to extend the proclamation of the existence of a local emergency. And who's going to present that, Brian?
Mr. Azumi will present this item, Mayor Chavez.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and council members. As you are aware, on March 13th, the City Council adopted resolution number 20-5457, proclaiming the existence of a local emergency in the city of Temple City regarding the coronavirus or COVID-19. On March 19th, this LA County Health Officer issued the Safer at Home order, which required everybody to stay at home and had an expiration date of April 19th of this year. And on April 10th, that health order was extended until May 15th. The proclamation that the City Council adopted declaring a local emergency had an expiration date of May 12th. However, with the California's government code, it does require that the city council review the need for continuing a local emergency or the existence of a local emergency every 60 days. And so our current proclamation is set to expire before the last day of the Safer at Home order. And staff is anticipating that the normal operations will not be in place and the conditions of the emergency will continue beyond our May 12th expiration date of our emergency. So tonight, you're asking the city council to review the need to extend the existence of a local emergency. And if the council believes that that condition still exists, to adopt resolution number 205465, extending the proclamation of the existence of a local emergency.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Arizumi. Okay, we will start with council questions, and I'll start with Council Member Mann. Do you have any questions?
No, Mayor Chavez, I do not. Thank you.
Council Member Sternquist, any questions?
I don't have any, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, you?
Nothing, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, then I'll open up public comment. First, I'd like to ask our city clerk if there are any public comment emails on this matter.
Mayor Chavez, I do not have any public comment received through the email, and we have unmuted all the callers' microphone.
Okay, so we have muted the callers, or any callers who are listening in. Does anyone have any comments on this matter? Hearing none, I will then close public comment, and we will now move to council comments. Again, I'll start with Councilmember Mann.
I'll keep mine short. As we've discussed in our last meeting, as well as a lot that's been reiterated now, the situation that we're dealing with is unprecedented and fluid. So it makes sense for us to extend it, given that LA County is also our public health official. So we hope we won't have to extend it further, but I think the proper due diligence for us right now is to do so. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Sternquist, any comments?
I don't have any, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, you?
I concur with staff's recommendation.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Arizumi, I just want to confirm, you're asking for the additional 60 days. That's the max that we can go out. Is that correct?
Correct. Per state law, we have to review any extension every 60 days. However, it should be noted that if conditions do change, the city council could, before the 60-day period, terminate our existence of a local emergency by adopting a second or a third resolution to terminate the existence.
That was my next question. Thank you for confirming that. Okay, I concur with my colleagues. So at this time, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we extend the local emergency and adopt resolution number 20-5465, extending the proclamation of the existence of a local emergency to July 11th.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, without any objection, call please.
Yes. Councilmember Mann?
Yes.
Councilmember Sternquist?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, you?
Yes.
Mayor Chavez?
Yes. Okay, thank you. We will now move on to item B, the opening of the temporary emergency and related to continuity of city services and personnel and request for direction. We'll now turn over to our administrative services director, or who's going to present that, Brian?
I'll start, Mayor Chavez, if you don't mind, and I'll have Ms. Pagadas follow me afterwards.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Chavez, members of the council, you've been so helpful in providing direction and policy in terms of the continuity of services for our city staff. I don't need to reiterate again, but we are a small contract city with 40 full-time employees and on average about 40 part-time employees. Our ability to provide services is really contingent upon our ability on these circumstances to be as flexible as we can in terms of how we schedule staff, use staff, and in the manner in which they operate. This ability to do that has been greatly achieved in part by using this paid administrative leave program. But I'll reiterate again, as I've reiterated in the past, this is something that it cannot continue on forever. It will be in the context of as the health department provides us more guidance with both on the essential service side, but also to how we are able to operate some of our facilities, that will dictate the manner in which we continue to operate on a go-forward basis. I have to say I'm so proud of all city staff. They receive a daily email from me 7 days a week, and all of them check it, make sure that there's no additional duties that are needed at any time. Anytime anyone calls, they're there. So in terms of questions that have been asked in the past, we have these funds budgeted on a go-forward basis. Ms. Pagadas has that spelled out. We've talked in the past about the additional leave that the federal government has granted related to the COVID event and some of the conditions that have to be met through that. So with that being said, we look for your direction tonight if we continue up to the May 15th date or May 30th date, so that we kind of at least know where we stand, because the current direction is to the end of April 30th, which at the time that we presented that item to you, the safer at home order was set to expire in the middle of April, but was extended. So anything else, Ms. Pagadas, you feel that I missed or you need to add?
No, you've covered everything, City Manager. The one thing that really helped us for this fiscal year is that legislation with the Landscape and Lighting District that really helped the city, in that the transfer of the $380,000 has gone back to the general fund. So that's what's keeping us afloat for now. However, as Mr. Cook mentioned, this will not last forever or in the long term. So we'll continue to monitor all the revenues we're receiving and working with the agencies such as HDL and looking at our sales tax revenues and how much comes in from now to in the next month. So we do have a meeting with HDL on the 29th, so we'll get a better idea of how this COVID-19 is affecting our sales tax revenues as well as our property tax revenues.
Okay, thank you very much for that report. We'll begin with council questions. We'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Yu.
Yeah, Mayor. And thank you, Mr. City Manager and Director Parkes, for your analysis. I just want to ask a clarification question. So what's before us tonight is to at least consider the payroll cost for the month of May. Sounds like it's approximately $66,000 for the month of May. Is the intention that we needed to give direction and approve the use of the $66,000 for administrative leave?
The extension is to continue the admin leave policy. So yes, there's not an additional appropriation again being requested, but because this is special leave that's being utilized, I extended my ability to do that at the beginning of this, and then we came to you as the legislative and policy body to continue that going forward. That's the action we're asking of you tonight.
Because we've been actually in the middle of this policy for the month of, at least for half of month of March and the full month of April, I presume. So are we looking at also similar type of expenses for the half month of March and then the month of April as well.
That is correct,
I will let,
Councilman.
go ahead.
Mayor Pro Tem. That is correct. It's similar rates that I've used in projecting the costs.
And likewise, if we were to, since we just extended the emergency and if this COVID crisis is not over by the end of June, we'll be looking at another $66,000 cost to the city, right?
That will be up to you, as again, we will need to monitor our revenues. And so the recommendation could change.
Okay. That's all I need to ask. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Sternquist, or do you have any questions?
I do have a question. Brian, I know we received the daily emails that you send out to staff, and you mentioned that before as part of the presentation, and I was just wondering, I know the email states that check with your supervisor to see if there's any additional duties. Since we don't see any of those additional duties that are sent from a supervisor, are you getting those?
To be honest, there haven't been, other than on-call services, we've been pretty steady on that, but no, if there were additional duties that were required, yes, the supervisors, department heads, division heads would have to filter that up to me. So that Susan is also tracking it, and Brian or Izumi is also tracking it from a payroll and hopefully reimbursement standpoint as well, so that we're tracking those costs carefully.
And that's the point I wanted to get to. Are we using those additional duties? Someone is making note of those if they do occur.
Yes, we are coding. Payroll is working through a process to track how this administrative cost is playing out, what the potential revenue losses are as well, and how they're tracking their time as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Mann, do you have any questions at this time?
Yes, Mayor Chavez, I do have one question. Can you help? I don't think we're probably going to be heading in that direction, or at least we hope we don't. But in the staff report, can you clarify under the conclusions part of the staff report, there's a alternative approach such as use of accrued leave or reduction in hours. Like what does that actually mean when it comes to the impact to the employees that fall under that category, or if that has an impact on services that we're providing?
Sure, and
if it doesn't have any, then yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So the use of accrued leave means that if council decides not to continue with the administrative leave, the paid administrative leave, staff would have to use their accrued leave to make their take-home pay whole. So that would reduce their vacation hours. And in the long term, that would help the city. The reduction in hours would mean that we reduce hours and they would be unpaid and not able to use their accrued leave. Going back to the accrued leave, when staff uses their accrued leave, it still costs the city funds for that, because we're still paying out the costs for those. Let's say I take 10 hours of vacation, that's still costing the city with cash flow. However, in the long term, my 10 hours of vacation is already paid out and it's not carried on into the long term of the books. That also works with furloughs, where if we do decide to create furloughs, it's still the same. We would have a choice of either allowing staff to use their accrued leave, or we would probably, and have to check the legality of it, is if we can say they would be unpaid. So if we say staff takes 1 day a week furlough, unpaid, then that would mean a 25% cut. Well, I guess 10 hours of 40 hours, it's 25% cut of their paycheck per week. So there's various approach to if the council decides not to approve the paid admin leave. These are the other alternative choices we can take.
Okay, so I guess if I were to paraphrase the direction we had given previously, which we're discussing to extend to either May 15th or May 31st, opens up a different category of leave that is available to our employees instead of being compelled to use accrued leave or any other methods. Is that correct? Okay.
So the paid admin leave has been the authorized, I guess, move by the council since March, I think 18th. So these are just the alternative choices if you decide, or if we find that our revenues have extremely dropped, these could be the other actions we can take instead of the paid admin leave.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Mann. I just want to confirm, when you're talking about furloughs, that's a fancy way of saying being laid off. Or is that different?
There is some technical aspects of what a furlough means. I think it's number one to jump in.
Yeah, so what a furlough does is it says there's no work for you now and you will not be paid. However, you remain an employee. We're seeing it more in the private sector right now. For example, the Walt Disney Company furloughed hundreds of thousands of workers. They retain their benefits, health insurance being a large and very important one because they remain employees. But a furlough allows the employer to essentially tell the employees there's no work to be done, they won't be paid, they become eligible for unemployment pay, but they do retain benefits, and when the furlough period ends, they come back in the same position that they were when they were furloughed. It's complicated legally, but the net effect is one would consider oneself unemployed, except that one continues to have health benefits.
So that seems to be the major difference between a furlough and a layoff.
You will the same job.
All right, good. Okay, I will now open up public comment. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment emails on this matter?
Mayor Chavez, I have not received any emails for public comment, and we will now go ahead and unmute the callers' microphones.
Okay. So the caller has now been unmuted. Is there anyone who is on the line wish to comment on this matter? Hearing none, I will close public comment. And we will now move to our final council comments, and we'll start with Councilmember Mann.
Thank you, Mayor Chavez. Yeah, I think considering the circumstances, like we discussed last time, for me, I think it makes sense to extend the paid administrative leave under these circumstances. I think until we get further clarity as to what the significant impacts are to our revenue, both in the short and long term, and as well as the work that staff is right now putting into kind of recalibrating City Hall, not just adapting to the current situation, but also thinking how are we going to change as a city as we emerge from this crisis. And I think it's worthwhile, and as public servants, it's our duty to cover them during these terrible times. And I think the fact that from a fiscal standpoint, our city appears to be in relatively stable shape compared to maybe some of the other cities in the LA County region. So we're poised to be able to provide that. But I will say that as we move into the budget discussion for the next fiscal year, it's going to be incredibly important for us to get a better idea of how we're going to adapt, because how we change is going to directly impact how we mesh out the budget in the coming year. And I'm hopeful that as we move into that discussion, there's going to be a lot of ideas, because ultimately, I think many of the ideas is going to have to come from not just our city manager, Mr. Cook, but a lot of our department heads and staff collectively put together ideas on how we can kind of tackle this issue. That's inevitably going to have some sort of adverse fiscal impact. So I would agree with the recommendation to extend the leave to the new public health deadline of May 31st.
Thank you. Council Member Sternquist. Any final comments?
Tom?
Yes, go ahead. We can.
William, are there two different deadlines? The May 15th now has been extended to May 31st?
No, that hasn't been May 31st. We just put that out there as an additional date for the council to consider, considering the fluidity of the situation.
Okay, William said 31st. So what was the 31st date then?
There's 2 dates for you to consider. You can consider the May 15th date or the May 31st date.
Okay. I agree with the extension, but I'm more inclined to go with the May 15th date. And one of the reasons for that is because the situation is so fluid. I'm just more comfortable looking at it every 2 weeks. And I don't think it takes much for us to have another discussion in 2 weeks from now to see where we're going to go. I don't think it impedes the process at all, but I just think it's good to do. And I think also, I know Brian, you and I have talked about that. I do have not a concern, but I do want to ensure that going forward up until the 15th, that our city staff, along with you, already start looking at what might be that next phase of, following the, whatever the 6 points are from the governor, but moving forward, that we do have continual plans to see what, reopening our city hall, even on a staggered basis, might look like. And I think that's important to take into consideration as we move towards that May 15th date. But I don't have a problem at all with extending it until May 15th. I have a little bit more heartburn. I don't have any heartburn with May 15th, but I do have a little bit of heartburn with extending it to the 31st.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, you?
I concur with everything that's been said thus far. I think I want to thank the city and city staff for doing such a great job during this unusual. And I'm glad the city has been conservative, if you will, and without finances. And I'm glad we've been doing that in situations such as now is the reason why we always been a little to be careful with our finances. But with careful financing, on the other hand, it gives us the ability to support our staff. I don't think it's in anybody's interest for our staff to have a reduction in hours, and last of all, furloughs, even use of accrued leave in the involuntary basis, not exactly pleasant. So I personally actually don't have an issue with extending it to May 31st because with the county's health order extending to May 15th, even if the county were to lift the health order, it most likely will be lifted in phases. And kind of like Councilmember Sternquist already said, it probably would be in phase kind of lifting of the order. Certain social distancing would still have to be maintained. City hall or public places, if open, might have limited number of folks. So I think it would take us a little bit of time to totally go back to normal. So personally, I have no issue with May 31st, but I'm perfectly fine with going with May 15 as well, knowing that we will have another meeting in May to discuss this matter. And like Councilmember Sternquist was saying, we can always have an emergency meeting to deal with this. So, but I think it's our obligation at this time to take care of our staff.
Thank you. Okay, and I concur with my colleagues. Fortunately, we're in a position of pretty much staying status quo for right now. Obviously, as we enter into our budget time, getting into our new fiscal year, there's going to be some difficult decisions to be made, but those are a little way down the road, and hopefully we'll see some improvement by that time. So thank you for your comments and your questions. With that said, I will now entertain a council motion. Who would like to propose one?
Mr. Mayor, I would propose that we would continue the payroll administrative leave option until extending it from May 2nd to May 15th.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any objection? Okay, Madam Clerk, if we could get a roll call, please.
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Mann?
Yes.
Councilmember Sternquist?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Yu?
Yes.
Mayor Chavez?
Yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Okay, we'll now move to item number 11, update from our city manager. City Manager, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mayor Chavez, members of the council. A couple updates for today. Councilmember Sternquist had alluded to it before, and let me give you a quick update on the federal funding that's coming down the pike and what it actually means. So the CARES Act, which was passed, which provided $139 billion. The challenge was, and you tracking the National League of Cities staff, tracking other sources, that funding only applied to cities that had a population of 500,000 or more, where they would receive direct funding related to the costs of COVID-19. It did provide, and what we suspect Almani may be doing, is utilizing a one-time infusion of funds to the CDBG program. I believe Almani is an entitlement city, which means they administer their own CDBG program, where the city of Temple City is not an entitlement city and runs through the county, which they have their own set of rules. So we are actually coming back to the council in the first meeting of May after consulting with the county related to the CDBG program to talk about some eligible programs for the community that we will be able to use. That funding is a little less that's been allocated to Temple City and all the non-entitlement cities as well, is a little under $200,000. So Mr. Gulick, who oversees the program, and Mr. Reimers, who is the supervisor, will be coming with a report with what we know from the county and what programs we will be able to, what programs the council will be able to consider The other one that just passed is HR 647, which is the Community Relief Act, which provides more funding to cities, but also those funding to cities with less than 500,000 in population, which is the majority of cities throughout the nation. The clarity in terms of that bill and what that funding will mean, generically written into the legislation, is that it was to deal with some lost revenue and expenses related to the COVID-19 event. How that, the actual guidelines, where that funding is going to be administered, how it's going to be applied for, is still not clear. And lastly, related to some of the SBA loans and other loans that have come through, we received an email today from a local business about that, which the mayor actually talked to that individual. I'll be talking to her tomorrow. Has been a bit frustrating for many small businesses throughout California and throughout the nation. Mr. Choi's done a good job of trying to get that information out to the business community, but we will be looking to see what else we can do to help be the facilitator of that to a certain extent, partnering with the Chamber of Commerce to see what else we can do and what else they can do to assist the small businesses in the community. In terms of the overall response to the event itself, as all of you noted, and thanking staff, that is, and we appreciate all that you're doing to support staff in this event, both behind the scenes in terms of payroll and legal and what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. I'm in contact, that daily email actually goes to our fire chief, Valet, and our captain, staying in contact with all of them. And we will continue to work with our partner agencies as we're going through this event. It has not been, it's been an interesting experiment. I think Councilmember Mann put it better than I could, that this is going to change some of the way that we operate, and in the spirit of actually providing better public service to the community. And we're experimenting. We're making mistakes here and there and trying to correct them when we can, but staff is doing a very good job. In terms of the responses from the community as well, we're getting, you get a weekly update from me. We get a little over about 100 calls a day or weekly into City Hall. So obviously that has gone down significantly. One other quick thing about the events that we're looking to do. Again, the council hasn't made a decision yet because they haven't been presented with it, but some of the alternatives we're looking at, as for example, for summer concerts, is maybe doing a streaming summer concert or doing some other alternative virtual park and recreation programming at a very low cost, because we don't have the revenue streams that are coming in, sponsorships and others, but we're going to try to be as creative as we can to do some of those things. We're looking for low cost ways in which to provide a level of service to the community that's it's not the same, but it is something that we're trying to provide. One, also to kind of keep community spirits up. Our lawn sign program will be happening soon, very low cost thing to do. And we'll talk to you a little bit more about how we're going to be distributing those out and how you can participate. So other than that, that's my report for this evening, Mayor Chavez.
Great, thank you very much.
I'm sorry, lastly, I know you'll mention Mayor Fish. I've been on as your city manager for almost the same amount of time that Mayor Fish has served on the council, and thank her for her service. Thank her for her partnership with me in working through as in the city manager, city council form of government. I will miss working with her. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for those nice words. Okay, we will now move on to item 12, update from our city attorney, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, sir. I too will miss working with Councilmember Fish, but it's my duty now to sort of organize you as a body and begin moving forward. As you, Mr. Mayor, and the Mayor Pro Tem will recall from early in your own time on council, the city charter governs Temple City's replacement of a departed council member, or essentially what's called filling a vacant seat. You have two options in this regard. One is to appoint a replacement, and the other is to call a special election. An appointment, if that's the road that you're going to take, must occur within 30 days. Obviously, given the dynamics of our current situation, that will be a tough road to hoe, but certainly it's something we can help you achieve if that's your will. Because this is not an agendized item, I'm basically bringing it up to you to tell you that myself, the city clerk, or the city manager will be contacting you all four of you, to set up a special meeting, hopefully in the earlier part of next week, where we can give you the full analysis of what your options are, and you guys can let us know what you want to do moving forward to fill the vacant seat. All right, you know, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I've already spoken with Eric Vail, my predecessor, and have looked over all of the analysis that was done 10 years ago when the two of you helped to fill 2 seats. So we're ready to go, but we do need to have this at an agendized meeting. So that's my report on that. Second item for the four of you this evening, as you'll recall, the city adopted an eviction moratorium on March 31st. That was adopted in the wake of the county adopting a similar moratorium on March 9th. The city's was substantially based on the counties and on ones that were being adopted by larger cities, Pasadena, Glendale, Alhambra, and others. On April 14th, a week ago today, the county significantly modified their eviction moratorium and made it apply to all incorporated cities except for the cities that have their own moratorium. This is a matter that we would like to return to you. Unless I hear objection, I'd like to return that matter to you at your next regular meeting so that you can consider fully what it would mean to rescind your moratorium and have your residents and businesses rely on the county's moratorium, or whether you want to keep yours in place. So I will give you the full analysis in 2 weeks, but unless I get direction or questions or comments tonight stating that you don't want it on the agenda and don't want it considered, I think it's at least worth the four of you having that discussion to decide which way you want to go in terms of giving your residents and your businesses that protection. And that is all.
Thank you. Is there anybody have a problem with that? Are we okay with that direction? Okay, hearing none, then you go ahead and proceed with that, Mr. City Attorney. I would like to see maybe, and I'm sure you'll probably do this, is maybe a compare and contrast kind of situation between what we have and what the new county regulations provide for. That way we can kind of see what we have and where we're going to go. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, then we will now move on to item number 13. Council reports regarding ad hoc or standing committee meetings. Do we have any? I know that the park is a standing committee or was going to meet soon, or but do we have any other that matter? I don't think we have any of those. Okay. Based on tonight's consent calendar, we all the direction was to reappoint our current commissioners, and so at this time I'm going to disband the ad hoc committee for the commissioner recruitment, and also to confirm what we did during the consent calendar was to reappoint Serge Haddad and Tom O'Leary to the Planning Commission, Chris Haddad and Jose Terran to the Parks and Recreation Commission, and Osama Nimri and Noel Palmieri to the Transportation and Public Safety Commission. So that ad hoc committee will be dissolved. As we know, Councilmember Fish was a member of a few of these ad hoc and standing committee meetings. so we'll need to replace her on that. So what I would ask is that sometime between now and the next meeting, if anybody is interested in any of those positions, I would ask that you please either let me or our city clerk know so that we can be prepared to make those new appointments at our next meeting. Okay. All right. With that, we will now move on to item 14, council items separate from the city manager's regular agenda. And council member, we'll start with you, Council Member Mann.
Thank you, Mayor Chavez. I would just want to start off by saying that I'm going to miss Councilmember Fish a lot. I think the greatest impact for me was actually recently when I took a trip with her in her capacity as mayor to visit Hualien, Taiwan, and meet with a lot of the officials there who were interested in a student exchange program. And I can tell you as a first-person witness that them marching and participating in our Camellia Festival this year wouldn't have happened without her. And sometimes it's just a lot of little things, you know, the way you present yourself, the way you get along with people, the way you make a first impression. She was excellent in all of those matters. On a more personal note, I learned a lot from her with regards to having a passion for what we do as a council. Her and I will always share that bond of coming onto council at the same time. We were the two newbies 5 years ago. And, you know, we drank from a fire hose during our first year because of all the information that was being thrown at us. We took a lot of direction from all of you, the veteran members of the city council. And I was very much looking forward to working with her, especially on the you know, we were just talking about standing committees and ad hoc committees. I thought she really did make a positive impact on the standing committee with the school board and the school district. And I'll certainly miss working with her on that. And above all, her friendship and her compassion. Those are the things that I will miss the most about her. I certainly hope that she will continue to be involved with our community in as much as a capacity as she can. And we certainly hope to see her after all this COVID-19 social distancing is over. And I wish her nothing but the best, and certainly wish to see her again in less dire circumstances. The next thing, I just want to briefly also thank our incumbent commissioners for their interest in continuing to serve. This is also unusual times for us, but you know, they do everything on a voluntary basis to conduct the business that needs to be conducted for our city. We always refer to them as an extension of the city council, and they very much are so. So it pleases me to have them willing to continue to serve on all their commissions. And finally, we've talked a lot about COVID-19. You know, ever since the stay-at-home orders, I've had a lot of chances to kind of stay in touch with other local electeds near and around our area. And I think the one thing that I found in common that everyone can agree on is that business is probably not going to return to normal the way we think it will return. I think there's going to be a lot of, for lack of better words, soul searching, recalibrating, whatever you want to call it, about, you know, how do we really define ourselves as a city? Like what are we actually doing? I mean, I would like to think that we're more than simply providing public services. I like to think that we're trying to affect certain changes, affect certain outcomes. I think every single city provides services, but how many cities can actually be a bit more forward thinking about, well, how does a certain crisis really change and alter our very own identity, not just the community that we serve. If the community that we serve is changed fundamentally by such a pandemic, then certainly we as elected representatives and the public servants need to understand what that change entails and how we're going to change from a policy perspective to adjust and adapt. So I very much look forward to discussing this in the upcoming budget discussions. Like the mayor mentioned and alluded to earlier, there's going to be some tough subjects to talk about, given the changes that we're constantly seeing day to day, week to week. But I'm on a more positive note. I see a lot of my neighbors, as well as members of our community, doing their part in flattening the curve. I don't see massive groups of people gathering in our parks or in public spaces. Even some of my neighbors who go out for walks around the block, some of them even wear masks as when they go out, even though they're not with a group. So it just pleases me to see that our community is doing their due diligence and staying vigilant in these difficult times. And I want to encourage all of them to hang in there. And if there's any special needs, City Hall is operational. We're accessible by email and by phone. Let us know how we can help you. Thank you, Mayor Chavez.
Thank you, Councilmember Mann. Councilmember Sternquist? Maybe we can come back. Mayor Pro Tem Yu, why don't we go to you next?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And likewise, I want to thank, former council member Fish and former Mayor Fish for the years that she has served on the city council. While we don't know why she decided to leave the council, but we pray that everything will be well for her, and thank her for her service, her years of serving on the community festival, her year serving as a council member, and her year not long ago as our mayor. So I really want to thank her for that. And similarly, I want to also thank the incoming or the appointed commissioners for stepping up to the plate during this crisis and willing to offer their service. I know this is a very, very special time, sort of at least for folks that are around the table, around the computer, if you will. This pandemic is something that none of us are used to, but we will get through this. Perhaps we can go back and research 1918, the great influenza, coming at the heel of the World War I, where I read, actually this is from the CDC website, they estimated at least 50 million people perished during that great influenza. And then it's really deja vu looking at a picture from 1918. People wearing masks, they were practicing social distancing. It's 100 years ago. Actually, more of our soldiers got killed by influenza than actually killed in World War I. But what I'm saying is not so much about the history, but remind everybody, in spite of the fact that it seems kind of grim, that we will come out stronger. I truly believe that we will be a better community as a result of that. Like Councilmember Mann was saying, We're going to be doing things a little differently from here on, probably more efficiently, probably driving less, probably take advantage of new technology. And I found myself doing a lot more teleconferencing that in the previous times, I would take advantage of. So, and I'm glad, like I repeated before, I'm glad we do have a rather strong city finance. And while the coming budget time will be interesting, but I think our guiding principle of keeping our service, keeping our staff well taken care of, will still be the guiding principle during the other times. So, so we'll get better. We'll get through this eventually. I'm very positive about that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Sternquist, are you with us again? Brian, have you heard from her? Is she still with us?
Yeah, and her screen is showing green. Peggy or Jillian, could you
mute it?
See what's in the background? And then maybe the mayor can go and then we can find Cindy.
Thank you. Okay, well, we're waiting for Councilmember Sternquist to come back on. I just want to echo many of the comments that my colleagues have made. I want to thank our scores. Again, thank Councilmember Fish. I think I like to refer to her as the volunteer extraordinaire. She has, as we all know, did not limit herself to city council business. Before and after and during, she's very involved in much of the community. And of course, those things are hard to measure, but we're all going to miss her. And, of course, our prayers go out to her and make sure that everything's okay. And I don't want anybody to think that it's not, that's not what I'm trying to say, but we know that she's made that difficult decision, and hope that everything will turn out best for her. I do want to thank my colleagues also for their leadership. It's not easy leading an organization, a city, in time. It's not easy to begin with, but certainly not easy when you go through things like this. And I think you have all shown a great deal of calmness, of professionalism, and compassion in the way that we all have handled what we do in the city. And so I think a lot of credit needs to go out to all of you. So thank you very much for that. I also want to thank our residents and our businesses. I think as Councilmember Mann indicated, they're out and about. We're following the rules. People are wearing their masks. They're staying their distance. And the numbers show it. I mean, we're one of those cities that have been a little bit more fortunate than many of our neighbors in this area. And I think that's because many of our residents and businesses are taking this seriously. And I want to thank them for that. The other day I was thinking it's like a good news, bad news thing. The good news is that we're seeing a lot of our neighbors out and about. I mean, I see people I've never seen before walking around, running across. But the bad news is we can't stop to talk to them and say, hey, how you doing? And what's going on? And hopefully one of the good things that comes out of this is people will continue to put aside vehicles and go for walks and do those types of things that they're doing now, and so that we can stay that nice community that we're all used to. So, it's a good thing. And I, like all of you, also believe that we're poised to come out of this much stronger, in a better way. And, I'm confident this will end. Not sure when, but at some point it will. And lessons learned and those that we have in good places, and so thank you all for doing that. And again, thank everybody for chipping in. So with that, is Councilmember Sternquist back online?
Mayor Chavez, she's having a little internet trouble.
Okay, all right.
but she asked me to just say a quick thing, if that's
Go ahead.
okay.
Yes, of course.
She just wanted to let her, we're gonna try, Peggy's gonna try to have her call in real quick. If we could just wait like 30 more seconds.
Okay, not a problem.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We'll take a short break. Vince, I can't hear you. Vince, I can't hear you.
That's a new thing. I mean, talking to yourself when your phone is muted. But Mr. I mean, you speak of leadership. I mean, I really want to take the time to thank you. Actually, while you give us credit for working through this crisis, but as the mayor, actually, you're the point person that's in the thick of things in every decision that we make. So we want to thank you for your leadership during this difficult time.
Well, thank you. I appreciate those kind words. But, you know, as I always said, we make a good team, and, you know, there's a reason we're there. And,
Yes.
you know, I think together we'll get through this. And, you know, the unfortunate thing is I just have to talk to Mr. Cook more often now, it seems like, you know.
Unfortunate for him.
Yes. All right. 30 seconds are up. Are we going to keep waiting, or what do you want to do?
Peggy?
We can always come back.
She's calling in, so we're gonna check the caller list to see if she's on. 1 second, please.
Okay, not a problem.
Hello?
Okay, we can.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I don't know what's been going on, but I've been trying to talk and nothing's happening.
Okay, did you find that?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'll just keep it very short. I just want to say that I'm very saddened and disappointed that we will no longer have Councilmember Fish with us on the council, but I will look forward to sharing everything about her and her accolades when we're able to meet together and give her an official send-off. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Oh, okay. And then I just wanted to let the public know that both Foothill Transit, Sanitation District, and Mosquito and Vector Control have been working very diligently to ensure that service is as best as it can be under the situation. And trying to get these workers face masks has been a challenge, but we finally were able to get them those so that our bus drivers and mosquito and vector control workers and sanitation district workers that are out in the field are able to be protected. And I just want to shout out to staff. They've been doing a great job. I post as much information as I can on my city council Facebook page, and I have had nothing but very nice comments to pass on to our city manager and city staff about how well the city is functioning, and that if they weren't stuck in their homes, they wouldn't know that there was a major crisis going on outside. So kudos to everybody. Thanks to my colleagues, to Greg, everyone who plays a part in making our city run as efficiently as possible. And with that, I just wish you all a good evening and stay healthy.
Thank you. Don't leave, though. We're not done.
Okay, I'm still here if you can hear me.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for those comments. We will now move on to item 15. We're going to recess to our successor agency, to the Temple City Community Development Team. Madam Clerk, well, first of all, I'll call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Yes, Mayor. Agency member Mann.
Here.
Agency member Sternquist.
Here.
Vice Chair Yu.
Here.
Chairman Chavez.
Here. Okay, we'll now move, thank you. We'll now move on to item 3, our consent calendar. Calendar items approved in a single motion is as recommended unless removed for further discussion. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve the consent calendar.
Okay. Okay, I think perhaps before I do that, I need to ask the city clerk if there are any email requests to speak.
No, sir, I do not have any email public comments.
Okay, did you want to unmute the microphones?
Yes, 1 second, please. Yes, the callers' microphones have been unmuted.
Okay, is there anybody listening in would like to comment on the any matter on the consent calendar to item number 15 on the agenda? Hearing none. Okay, we had a second. If there's any, unless there's any objection, could we have roll call, please?
Yes. Agency Member Mann?
Yes.
Agency Member Sternquist?
You need to unmute caller 17, which is caller 17.
Yeah.
Agency Member Sternquist? Yes. Vice Chair Yu? Vice Chair Yu?
Yes.
Chair Chavez?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to unfinished business, none. New business, none. Item 6, communications, none. Item 7, public comments. Madam Clerk, are there any email requests to speak on public comments?
Is this the regular portion of the meeting, not
No.
the
Public comments on the
successor agency?
Yeah.
Okay.
So those, I believe that we have the microphones unmuted again. Is there anybody from the public wish to comment on the successor agency agenda? Hearing none, we will close public comments. We'll now move on to item 8, update from Executive Director and Agency Counsel.
None.
None. Matters from agency members? None. And we now are adjourned. We will return now to our regular city council meeting. We'll return to item 16, additional public comments on items not listed on the agenda. City council now here, no public comment regarding items not on the agenda. I will first ask our city clerk if there are any email requests to speak. I believe there are not. Madam Clerk?
No, Mayor, there are no email comments.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now unmute the microphones for the public. Is anybody who is listening in wish to speak on any items that are not on the regular city council meeting agenda? That would be the time to speak. Do we have anyone?
Yes, Mayor, myself, Jerry Jambazian.
Go ahead, Jerry.
I'd like to just thank our mayor and our city council for all the work you do and keeping us safe and giving us updates either through public safety or the communications office. It's very helpful to see all the different notifications that come out each week, and it just reassures us. As a small business owner in Temple City, my life has changed in the last 2 months, and I'm sure many of you have also. So it's a difficult time, but we will get through this. And I just want to thank City Manager Cook for addressing my questions that I had. I know that you were under no obligation to do so since it was not a agendized item, but I appreciate you taking the time to do that. The only thing that in my closing comment is that I miss so much the last probably month and a half of not documenting school and city events through photography and video. I just miss it so much, and I want to get back to it. And I just wish that this national nightmare would end and we can come back to some sense of normalcy. But thank you for all that you do to make that possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. And I'm sure Pat is ready for you to return to all those events as well.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks. Okay. Anyone else? Hearing no one else, I will close public comments. Before we adjourn this evening, I want to, with everyone's consent to close in honor of the service by Councilmember Fish to our city, and also close in honor of all of our first responders. All stay healthy and safe, and continued good health for all of you out there. And we'll see you soon. All right. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.